New York City, August 1999. The sold-out crowd at Madison Square Garden roared as Mariah Carey commanded the stage, but nobody expected what happened at exactly 9:47 p.m. A small figure broke through security barriers. A girl, no more than 8 years old, sprinting across the stage with desperate speed. Security lunged forward, but Mariah raised her hand, stopping them instantly. The girl didn't ask for an autograph or scream like other fans. Instead, she grabbed Mariah's arm with trembling hands and whispered something that made her face go completely pale. The music stopped. The crowd noise dropped to confused murmurs. Mariah knelt down, her expression shifting from confusion to something darker. Recognition, maybe, or fear. Something in the girl's eyes wasn't right. Too old, too scared for a kid her age. As security finally approached, she pressed something into Mariah's palm and disappeared into the crowd before anyone could stop her. Mariah stood frozen, staring at the object. Her longtime manager, Stella, noticed her hands shaking. The object was a bracelet, simple, worn with faded beads spelling out a name. Her fingers traced the letters like they might burn her. The beads were cheap plastic, the kind you could buy at any craft store, but they'd been arranged with care. Someone had made this by hand, strung each letter with purpose. The crowd waited for her to continue performing, but Mariah seemed to be somewhere else entirely, lost in a memory that clearly hurt. Stella rushed to her side, concern written all over her face, but Mariah waved her away with a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. She managed to finish the concert somehow, performing on autopilot while her mind raced through possibilities, each more troubling than the last. Backstage afterward, Mariah sat alone in her dressing room, turning the bracelet over and over in her hands. There was something else too, a small folded note the girl had slipped her along with the bracelet. Her hand trembled slightly as she unfolded it. The note contained just 7 words in a child's handwriting. "She told me you would remember her." The writing was shaky, like the child had been crying or scared when she wrote it. Mariah's jaw clenched as she read those words again and again, and Stella could see something dangerous flickering in her eyes. Not anger exactly, but a protective fury that came from somewhere deep. One thing was becoming clear. That child hadn't come to the concert by accident. Someone had orchestrated this entire encounter. But why use an innocent child as a messenger? Mariah stood abruptly, startling Stella. "We need to find her," she said, her voice rough with emotion she rarely let anyone see. "Find who?" Stella asked, though something in her old friend's tone made her uneasy. "The girl. That little girl. She's in danger." Stella wanted to ask how she could possibly know that, but something stopped her. The certainty in Mariah's voice, or the way her hands had formed fists at her sides. Security footage was pulled within minutes. The girl appeared on camera running onto the stage clear as day, but tracking her movements after that got weird. She'd slipped through a service entrance most people didn't know existed, the same entrance staff used for equipment. Someone had told her exactly where to go. She had help, the head of security muttered. Someone inside gave her access. This was planned. Mariah watched the screens with an expression that made everyone in the room uncomfortable. There was something in her eyes, something haunted. Stella pulled her aside, away from the security team. The hallway was empty, but Stella kept her voice low anyway. "Talk to me. What's going on?" Mariah was quiet for a long moment, her gaze distant, fixed on something only she could see. Her jaw worked like she was trying to find words that wouldn't come. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Someone I tried to help a long time ago. Someone I failed." The weight of those words hung between them. The pain in those words was real, and Stella suddenly understood that whatever had happened years ago, it still kept her friend awake at night. But Mariah had always been private about certain parts of her past, and Stella had learned not to push. Now, though, that past was forcing its way back into the present. Mariah's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She opened it and her face went ashen. Stella leaned in to look. A photograph of the little girl from the stage, standing outside what appeared to be an abandoned building somewhere in New York. She was alone, looking directly at the camera with those same haunted eyes. The text beneath the photo read, "She's waiting for you where it all began. Come alone. You have until midnight." The timestamp showed it had been sent just 30 seconds ago. Whoever sent this had been watching, monitoring everything. Mariah's mind raced. Stella was already calling the police, but Mariah grabbed her wrist, stopping her. "No cops," she said firmly. "Why not?" Stella demanded. This is clearly some kind of trap. I know, Mariah interrupted. But if we bring in the police, she could get hurt. Whoever's behind this knew exactly how to get my attention. The bracelet. But why would someone have it after all these years? And more disturbing, why give it to a child? The clock on the wall showed 10:15 p.m., less than 2 hours until midnight. Stella was still arguing, trying to convince her to call the authorities, but Mariah was already moving, grabbing her jacket, her keys. I have to go, she said simply. Then I'm coming with you, Stella insisted, but Mariah shook her head. The message said, come alone. If I don't follow instructions exactly, they might hurt her. Stella hated it, but the logic was sound. She watched helplessly as her friend headed for the door. As Mariah reached the exit, Stella called out, "At least tell me where you're going." Mariah paused, and when she looked back, there were tears in her eyes. The community center in Queens, on Parsons Boulevard. The drive through New York streets felt longer than it should have, every red light an eternity. The community center loomed ahead, dark and abandoned now. Budget cuts had forced it to close 3 years ago, and the building had fallen into disrepair. Windows broken, graffiti covering the walls, weeds growing through cracks in the parking lot. It looked nothing like the place she remembered, the place where kids used to have a chance at something better. Mariah parked her car a block away and approached on foot, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The front door stood slightly ajar. She pushed it open slowly, the hinges creaking in the silence. "Hello?" she called out, her voice echoing through the empty hallways. Nothing. She moved deeper into the building, past rooms that held memories she'd tried to forget. Then she heard it, a soft whimpering sound coming from the old counseling office at the end of the hall. She broke into a run, threw open the door, and found the little girl from the concert huddled in the corner, tears streaming down her face. She didn't look surprised to see Mariah, though. She looked relieved, like she'd been waiting and knew she would come. Mariah knelt beside her, keeping her voice gentle. "Are you okay? Did someone hurt you?" The girl shook her head, then reached out and touched Mariah's face with small, cold fingers. "You really do look like the pictures," she whispered. Before she could ask what she meant, the girl pulled something from her pocket. A photograph, creased and worn like it had been carried for a long time, looked at often. It showed a woman, older now, maybe in her early 30s, standing with a man Mariah didn't recognize. And in the woman's arms was a baby. The girl pointed to the baby in the photo. "That's me," she said simply. Mariah stared at the photo. The woman's face was older, worn by time and stress, but she recognized her. Her chest tightened. "Where's your mother?" she asked, her voice cracking. The girl's lower lip trembled. "Bad men took her. She told me if anything ever happened, I should find you. She said you're the only one who would help, the only one she could trust." Questions multiplied in Mariah's mind. She gathered the girl into her arms and she clung to her like she was her last hope in the world. "What's your name?" she asked gently. "Lily," she whispered. The weight of that trust coming from this child who barely knew her made Mariah's chest tight. Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Heavy, purposeful footsteps. Multiple people. Mariah's protective instincts flared instantly. She looked around the room for another exit, but there was only one door and the window had been boarded up years ago. They were trapped. The footsteps stopped just outside the door. A man's voice called out, calm and cold. "Ms. Carey, we know you're in there. Come out and bring the girl. No one needs to get hurt." But something in that voice suggested hurt was exactly what someone intended. Mariah held Lily closer, her mind racing through options. "We just want to talk," the voice continued, but the lie was obvious. "The girl has something that belongs to us. Hand her over and you can walk away from this." Over her dead body. But how could she protect her when they were cornered with no escape route? Her eyes swept the room again, desperate, and then she noticed something. The drop-ceiling tiles. They were old, probably fragile, but maybe they led to a crawl space. It was a long shot, but it was all they had. She whispered to Lily, "I need you to be very brave right now, okay? We're going to climb up there." She pointed to the ceiling. Lily's eyes went wide, but she nodded. Mariah quietly pushed a desk beneath the ceiling tiles, climbed up and carefully pushed one aside. The space beyond was dark and cramped, but it looked like it ran the length of the building. She reached down for Lily. The girl grabbed her hands and she pulled her up just as the door burst open. Men in dark clothes flooded into the room. But Mariah was already pulling herself up into the crawl space, sliding the tile back into place. They lay flat in the darkness, barely breathing, as voices shouted below. "They were just here!" Someone yelled. "Search the building." They couldn't have gotten far. Mariah and Lily crawled silently through the narrow space, moving away from the voices. Dust filled their mouths and the ancient framework groaned under their weight, but they kept moving. Lily's small hand gripped her jacket, following her lead without complaint, even though she could feel her trembling. These weren't random kidnappers, they were too organized, too prepared. The crawl space seemed endless. Every creak of the old framework made Mariah's heart stop, certain the men below would hear. Lily stayed silent, her small body pressed against the dusty boards, trusting her completely. After what felt like hours but was probably only 10 minutes, they reached what appeared to be an old storage area on the opposite end of the building. Mariah carefully removed a ceiling tile and peered down. Empty. She dropped down first, landing in a crouch, then caught Lily as she lowered herself down. They were in what used to be a supply closet, and it had a small window that hadn't been boarded up. Mariah forced it open and helped Lily climb through. She followed, and they found themselves in an alley behind the building. She could hear shouting from inside, the men still searching. She scooped Lily up and ran, not stopping until they were 3 blocks away and hidden in the shadows behind a closed restaurant. Only then did she pull out her phone and call Stella. "I've got her," she said when Stella answered on the first ring. "But we've got a serious problem. Someone's hunting this kid and they're not going to stop." Stella's voice was tight with concern. "Where are you?" "I'm coming to get you." But before Mariah could answer, Lily tugged on her sleeve. "They'll find us," she whispered. "They always find us. Mom said they have people everywhere, people we'd never suspect." The fear in those words, coming from a child, was chilling. "She told me something else too," Lily continued, her voice small but determined. "She said if the bad men ever came, I should give you this." She reached into her sock and pulled out a tiny USB drive. "Mom said you'd know what to do with it. She said you'd know who to trust." Mariah stared at the drive. Whatever information was on it, someone had been willing to hunt a woman for years, willing to terrorize a child. The weight of it hit her hard. But it also sparked something in her. That old determination, that refusal to back down. "Stella," she said into the phone, her voice hardening. "I need you to do exactly what I say. Call Detective Martinez, she's the only cop I trust with this. Tell her I need a safe house. Then I need you to find me the best computer security expert in New York. Someone discreet, someone who owes us a favor." She could hear Stella's mind working through the implications. "What's on that drive?" "I don't know yet," Mariah admitted, "but I'm going to find out." The next 3 hours were careful movement through New York streets, staying to shadows, changing direction randomly to lose any potential tails. Stella met them at a predetermined spot with Detective Rosa Martinez, a 15-year veteran who'd worked with Mariah before. She took one look at Lily's frightened face and Mariah's protective stance and asked no questions, just led them to a safe house. Inside, Lily finally relaxed slightly, though she still wouldn't leave Mariah's side. A computer expert Stella had contacted, a woman named Jennifer, arrived with equipment within an hour. She took the USB drive, plugged it into an air-gapped laptop that couldn't be remotely accessed, and began examining its contents. The tension in the room was suffocating as they waited. Detective Martinez was on her phone, quietly arranging for increased security. Stella sat beside Mariah, and for once neither of them spoke. They just watched Lily, who'd curled up on the couch with a blanket, her eyes heavy but fighting sleep. When Jennifer finally looked up from her laptop, her face was pale. "You need to see this," she said quietly. Jennifer examined the drive contents, her expression growing more serious by the minute. After 20 minutes, she looked up, her face pale. "This is way beyond what I can safely analyze," she said. "I'm seeing evidence of major organized crime, really serious stuff that goes way deeper than I can handle. We need federal involvement immediately." Detective Martinez made the call. Within 2 hours, FBI agents arrived. 3 of them at first, then more as they realized what they were dealing with. They filled the small safe house, professional and efficient, taking statements, securing the evidence, making calls. They took the drive, began their analysis in a separate room. When they emerged, even seasoned agents looked shaken. One agent pulled Mariah aside. "This is massive. The evidence here points to operations that have been running for over a decade, but I can't share specifics. This is an active investigation now, and some of what we've found involves ongoing cases at the highest levels. Details need to stay confidential for now. Translation: the full truth wasn't something they were ready or able to reveal. Where did this come from? One agent asked, looking at Lily. My mom, Lily said quietly. She's been collecting it for years. And where is your mother now? Lily's eyes filled with tears. They took her 3 days ago. She told me to run to find her. She pointed at Mariah. There was a phone number in my emergency bag. I called it from a gas station and a woman answered. She didn't give me her name, just told me where to wait. Someone picked me up hours later, drove me here, got me a ticket, showed me the service entrance, then they disappeared. The agents exchanged glances. We're going to find your mother, one said, though Mariah noticed he didn't say alive. Your mother's evidence mentions other locations, other materials. We'll need your help accessing them when the time comes. Lily nodded slowly. Mariah saw the calculation in the agent's eyes. Lily wasn't just a witness, she was the key to everything. Detective Martinez pulled Mariah aside. This is bigger than us. The FBI's taking point, which is good. But if what's on that drive is as bad as they're saying, powerful people will want it buried, which means they want Lily. She didn't finish. Over my dead body, Mariah said quietly. Martinez nodded. Just know what you're getting into. The FBI set up a protection detail. They moved Lily to a more secure location. They began the process of analyzing the evidence, cross-referencing it with their own databases, building cases, and they started making arrests. Small fish at first. Street-level operators, mid-level facilitators. But each arrest led to more questions, more threads to pull. And through it all, one question haunted Mariah. Where was Lily's mother? Days passed with agonizing slowness, then a week. Each morning, Lily would wake up and ask the same question with those wide, hopeful eyes. Did they find her? And each morning, Mariah had to say no, not yet. Watching a little more hope drain away, she started dreading mornings, dreading that question, dreading the look on her face when she couldn't give her the answer she needed. The media caught wind of the story. Not all of it, but enough. Headlines splashed across every screen. Major trafficking operation busted. FBI credits anonymous tipster. Dozens arrested in multi-state sweep. The public outrage was immense. But for Mariah, none of it mattered if they couldn't find her. Mariah watched the news with growing frustration. They were getting people, sure, but they still hadn't found her. Lily was staying strong, helping the FBI navigate her mother's evidence system, solving the puzzles her mother had built into the hiding places. But Mariah could see the toll it was taking on her. Every day that passed without word of her mother, a little more light went out of her eyes. Then 12 days after that night at the concert, Mariah's phone rang. It was Martinez. They found something, she said, her voice tight. Is she alive? Mariah asked, afraid of the answer. I don't know, but they found a location. The FBI is moving on it now. I thought you'd want to know. Mariah did want to know. She wanted to be there. But the FBI had made it clear. This was their operation, and civilians, even ones who'd started this whole thing, weren't welcome in an active raid. So she waited, sat with Lily, who sensed something was happening, watched the clock tick forward with agonizing slowness. Her phone rang again. Martinez. They got her. She's alive. She's alive. Her knees almost gave out. She looked at Lily, whose eyes were wide with desperate hope. Your mom, she said, her voice breaking. They found your mom. She's okay. Lily flew into her arms and they held each other while she cried tears of relief and joy and release. 2 days later, after medical evaluations and debriefings, after the doctors had stabilized her and treated her injuries, Mariah stood outside a hospital room. Her hands were shaking. Through the window, she could see a woman lying in a bed, bandaged and bruised but undeniably alive. Lily was already inside, had been for an hour, reunited with her mother. She'd watched through the glass as they'd held each other, both of them crying. Lily refusing to let go even when the nurses needed to check her mother's vitals. She'd been told she could go in, that the woman wanted to see her, but part of her was afraid of what she'd say, what she'd think of how she'd handled things, afraid of facing the person she'd failed all those years ago. The door opened. A nurse came out, smiled at her. She's asking for you. She took a breath and walked in. The woman in the bed looked up as she entered. Her face was older, worn by years of stress and fear and survival, but her eyes, Her eyes were the same. Lily was sitting beside the bed holding her mother's hand. When she saw Mariah, the woman smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. "Thank you," she said simply. Those 2 words carried the weight of 9 years. 9 years of running, hiding, gathering evidence, protecting her daughter. 9 years of hoping that if the worst happened, the promise she'd made all those years ago would still mean something. "I'm sorry," Mariah said, her voice rough, "for not being there sooner, for not—" "Stop," she interrupted gently. "You couldn't have known, and you were there when it mattered. You protected Lily. You made sure the evidence got to the right people. You did what I asked." "I should have done more back then," she said. "Maybe, but you did what you could, and you kept your promise. That's what matters." They talked for a while. She told her some of what had happened over the past 9 years, though not everything. There were still parts of the story she kept to herself. Details she said weren't safe to share. Things even the FBI didn't fully understand yet. She told her about discovering the trafficking operation, about realizing how deep it went, about making the impossible choice to disappear rather than go to authorities she couldn't trust. She told her about building a new life, having Lily, living every day with the fear that they'd be found, and about gathering evidence piece by piece, building a case that would be ironclad when the time came. "Why now?" Mariah asked. "Why send Lily to me now?" She looked at her daughter, squeezed her hand. "Because they were getting close. I could feel it. And I knew if they got me, Lily would need someone. Someone strong enough to stand up to them. Someone who wouldn't back down." She looked back at Mariah. Someone who'd made a promise. In the weeks that followed, the scope of the operation became clearer, though never entirely clear. The FBI made more arrests. They recovered more evidence. They shut down operations in multiple states, but they also ran into walls. Some cases fell apart due to lack of evidence. Some suspects disappeared, and some parts of the network seemed to vanish before they could be touched, like they'd been tipped off. Mariah asked Martinez about it one day. She gave her a look that said more than words. "Sometimes the fish are too big for the net we've got," she said quietly, and she could hear years of frustration in her voice. "And sometimes people in high places make sure certain names never come up in discovery. That's just how it works. I wish it wasn't, but it is." It wasn't the answer she wanted, but it was an honest one. Perfect justice wasn't always possible, but they'd done something. They'd saved lives. They'd shut down a major operation. They'd given Lily her mother back. She had to let that be enough. Mariah made sure Lily and her mother had everything they needed: housing, security, therapy, a new start. She stayed in their lives, not as a savior, but as a friend, someone who'd been there in their darkest moment. 3 months after that night at Madison Square Garden, Mariah sat in her studio when her phone buzzed. It was a photo. Lily smiling, standing in what looked like a music room somewhere. The text beneath read, "She wants to learn piano. Says maybe she'll write songs someday. Thank you for giving her a chance to have dreams again." She stared at that photo for a long time, thinking about promises and responsibility and the strange ways life connects people across years and circumstances. That little girl who jumped on stage hadn't just changed her life. She'd reminded her why any of this mattered. But there were still questions. Questions about who else was involved in the trafficking network. Questions about how they'd found Lily's mother after so many years. Questions about whether the operation was truly shut down or just damaged. Questions she suspected would never be fully answered. And maybe that was okay. Maybe some mysteries didn't need to be solved completely. Maybe it was enough to have fought back, to have protected someone who needed protecting, to have made good on a promise even if the battle wasn't entirely won. Some promises take 9 years to keep. 9 years of guilt, of wondering what if, of carrying the weight of someone you couldn't save. And sometimes keeping them means accepting that you can't fix everything, can't save everyone, can't know the full truth. But you show up anyway. You fight anyway. You keep the promise anyway. And that has to be enough.